Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Diet Doc Life Mastery podcast. I'm Dr. Kori Propst. I'm your host and I'm your resident health psychologist. I'm also a licensed mental health therapist, a certified health coach, certified nutrition coach, and a mindfulness meditation instructor. I partner with my clients to explore their lives free from binge eating, free from body shame, and free from food fear. And in this podcast, we explore the many aspects of life related to authentic health, happiness, and well-being. We dive into topics like self-awareness and emotional resilience, mindset, motivation, disordered eating, fitness, nutrition, and relationships that we have with our bodies and with food. In this episode, I'm in conversation with my very good friend and colleague. She is also a licensed diet doc nutrition clinician and mindset and motivation coach, Rozanne Pyper. Hi, Rozanne.
Hi, Dr. Kori. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so awesome. Let me just add that Rozanne is located in Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, right? And Rozanne, maybe you could share kind of what you specialize in there before we kind of dig into this topic.
Well, I'm a diet doc, motivation, nutritional exercise coach, and I specialize in meeting with individuals and meeting them where they're at and guiding them towards their chosen health and fitness goals, not ones I choose, ones that they choose.
This is an important distinction, right? So today, you and we are going to dive into this topic of navigating emotions. And this is going to be the first part of a 4-part series that we'll do throughout this month. Rozanne, if you're ready, can we dig right in?
Let's just jump right into this.
Okay, awesome. So, as I've been thinking through this, it's incredibly obvious that helping our clients learn how to navigate emotions it's a foundational part of the work that we do. And we often have clients who don't really know what to do with emotion, particularly the emotions that are less comfortable and that we might label as unpleasant, like anger, for example, like disappointment, like anxiety. Even I have a lot of clients right now who are struggling with a lot of grief and navigating that and learning how to do so. But my question to you is, what do you often see as the consequence of not knowing how to be with emotion?
Well, when I have clients that are, not particularly paying attention to emotions or don't even really know about emotions, or they may feel them, but they're not really acknowledging them. Specifically when it comes to nutrition and they're starting out on nutrition, they're wanting things to be perfect, wanting things to run really smoothly and just, flow. And as we know, there's sometimes road bumps. So sometimes I see emotions of overwhelm, that stress come up, maybe some avoidance, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. What do you see when those emotions come up, that the overwhelm, the avoidance, when those come up, are there certain behaviors that you begin to see as a result of overwhelm, for example?
Sometimes I would say that it's more of, it could be when they get overwhelmed, it could be just avoiding or maybe not tracking, or they maybe stop communicating a little bit, that sort of thing.
Okay, so there are certain things that they're doing or not doing that clue you in as a clinician that there's some sort of emotional experience going on. Okay. And you mentioned that a lot of times you're seeing that clients maybe don't necessarily, they're not paying attention, or they don't maybe know how to acknowledge emotion when it's there. As a coach, what what do you do, or how do you guide your clients to begin to pay more attention to what they are experiencing emotionally?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I think, as a coach, that's where some powerful questions come in. It's like, well, what is happening? What's the context? What were you doing? Who were you with? And those sort of things. And how long was it in between your meals? Sometimes, there's certain things that happen there.
Mm-hmm.
And so these questions and getting to navigate around what's actually happening around those emotions is really key to starting to recognize what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of that within the environmental context, we have to really take into consideration that we have this internal context as well. And while the environment is going to influence what we experience emotionally, the emotion itself occurs in this environment, right? Emotion occurs in our bodies. And I think that a lot of times is why we want to push it, especially if it feels unpleasant or weird or different, or it's a shift in emotion. Really is a shift in our energy. Emotion is energy in motion. When it bumps up against maybe when we're experiencing joy, or we're experiencing happiness, or maybe we're just neutral, but then some other energy comes in, it's like, oh no, I don't like that. Like, I got to push that away somehow, or get away from it, or avoid it, like you said. And instead, is there something else that we could or would be better off doing than avoiding, Rozanne?
Yes, there is. And we know inviting that emotion in and recognizing it, inviting it in, and acknowledging that it's there is the first place to start.
Okay. Because this is what I too will begin to explore with my clients. There are some barriers to this, I feel like, though, in many ways, because inviting it in can feel very scary. And what does that even mean? Like, what does it mean to invite an emotion in? Kori, Rozanne, you sound crazy. I don't even know what that would look like. What do I do? That's often what I hear. Like, what? Huh? What? How would I do that? Can you give us a little bit of information in terms of what that would look like, Rozanne?
Yes. So a lot of times when you think of that can be really scary. It's like, well, if I invite it in, aren't I just like making it worse?
Yeah, exactly.
It and making it so it's a real big deal. And it's, inviting it, or just noticing it and inviting it in is just to acknowledge that it's there and to be with it, so that you're giving it a place instead of just stuffing it away and not acknowledging it. And when we do that, when we just stuff it away, it can really manifest and build up within us. So when we're having it there and acknowledging it, it's like, okay, you're there, and now what am I going to do with you? What do you think?
No, I think you're spot on. And I think this is the part that most of us don't realize, is that when we try to push away or avoid or ignore an energy, an emotion that is there for us, we potentially make it worse. There's a phrase that I like to use, and it is, what we resist persists. And literally, if you think about just take your own life, for example, put yourself in the position of your life when you begin to experience some sort of unpleasant emotion, be it anxiety, anger, disappointment, sadness. When you try to get away from it, do you notice that it chases you? do you
Absolutely.
do you notice that the intensity begins to rise? You know, I see this with a lot of my clients who engage in binge eating. If my clients are eating adequately and they're getting enough food, and we know that the binge is not necessarily related to some sort of restriction, because binge eating often is, then why is the binge eating occurring? Binge eating often will occur because it's a tool, it's a method that we use to try to shove down emotion and to not feel it. But what often happens is that because we're ignoring it, it comes back with even greater intensity later on down the road. I mean, if you look at a human relationship, if we ignore what someone is saying to us and we just kind of turn away each time they say it to us, what is the other person going to do eventually?
Yeah, they are going to retaliate.
Yeah, they're probably going to get really aggressive or assertive, or they're going to raise their voice to make sure you freaking hear them, right? And that's what our emotions do too. They demand to be felt. They do demand to be experienced. And I think it's important to recognize that, and the research bears this out, that just like you said, Rozanne, when we can learn how to acknowledge that they're there, so we can name it, we can say, oh, okay, I feel this shift in energy in my body. Like, I may notice tension, I may notice tightness, I may notice fluttering in my belly, I may notice that my heart rate is rising. Any of these things can be clues that an emotion is present, right? When
Those
that
feelings,
happens,
yeah,
we feel it. And that's something I want to chat with you about too. But when it's there, to be able to say, oh, this is here, just that small action of, oh, okay, this is an experience of an emotion, and being able to say that and name that. You don't even need to say or name what the emotion is. You don't have to go that far. It's just, oh, this is an experience of an emotion. That in and of itself will help to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which allows your body to settle a bit, which allows you to then be able to ground yourself a little bit and then choose a more skillful action than, being reactive about it.
Yeah, so you're saying just to even name that you're having an emotion, you don't even need to know what the emotion is called. No. It activates our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest response, where we can just settle. That's comforting.
Right? Yeah. It's so antithetical to what we, I think, impulsively want to do, because I'm putting that in quotes because I don't like to call them negative or positive emotions. Like, to me, emotions are like, they operate on a continuum. I like to kind of look at them as energy. They're just energy. And some don't feel as good, of course, but that's exactly, you're spot on.
And these emotions, let's get into these feelings and sensations. So
good. Yeah.
We have these emotions, and we know that we're experiencing them because we feel these feelings and sensations in the body. When I'm anxious or feeling overwhelmed, I feel tingliness in my fingers. I feel a little cold and clammy in my palms. I feel my heart rate go up a little.
That's right. And there's value, I think, in being able to distinguish between feelings and emotions. So the emotion is the actual change in energy, the shift in energy. The feeling is the sensation. So if you think about our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell, those allow us to sense things and feel things. So each one of the shifts in energy is going to manifest in feelings and sensations. Does that make sense? It can be confusing to a lot of people.
Yeah, so the emotions are that shift in energy, and then you have almost like a byproduct of those emotions, which are these feelings and sensations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an outcome that we'll know is there just by feeling into our bodies. It's like, oh, you know, when there's an experience of sadness, I notice and observe in my body that my throat gets tight.
Mm-hmm.
And I notice in my body that there's this sort of like ache in my head behind my eyes. And those are internal. No one else can see those things, but I feel them. There's also outward manifestations of emotion. For many of us, when we feel sad, and I'll speak for myself, I cry. I can't feel crying. Like, crying to me doesn't have a sensation, but that is an outward manifestation of crying, are the tears. Right?
Yes.
And it's so interesting that I like to look at emotions this way too, and the outward and inward manifestations of them, especially the outward. You know, emotions help others to know that we're having an experience. It helps others to see if we are crying. Crying is like this outward manifestation that we might need care and we might need nurturance. And so then often people will come to your aid. It's like when you think about the evolution of emotion, they came in really, really handy to help us survive and to help us stay connected to other people and to help us, you know, be in this life and make it.
Yes, and what I'm hearing is, you know, emotions trigger, you know, maybe the sadness, the tears. They can also trigger joy and that smile where people will be smiling with you. And you know, it can go both ways. You said something really profound to me last week when we were talking, and because I'm like, you know, Kori, you know, I'm a pretty happy, optimistic person, and I get told that all the time. It's like, Rozanne, you're always so happy. And then what I was saying to Kori is, I don't always feel happy. I feel sadness. I feel frustrated sometimes. I feel angry. I feel all of that. And Kori, what did you tell me?
I told you that the happiest, healthiest emotionally people on the planet are those individuals who experience all the emotions. We feel all the feelings. Yeah.
Yes, and that brought me a sense of relief, like that emotion of relief. I'm like, okay, it normalized me. It made me feel human. And I think that we can take that away with our call today is, you know, for us to all, you know that these emotions aren't to be stuffed away and not addressed. We're allowed to give them a place.
Very, very good point, Rozanne. Yeah, feeling the feelings, experiencing the emotions. To me, and I can't say that I was always willing to invite emotion like I am now at this time in my life. It used to be much, much more difficult for me. But this is a skill that can absolutely be built. And I will say that it has made my life so much richer to be able to experience all of them, especially in the context of a friendship like yours and mine. And yeah, so, you know, to everyone who is listening, what are the key takeaways, Rozanne? One or two that we can leave everyone with?
Something that we discussed recently, for us to feel better and to want to feel better, we need to become better feelers. So that is being in touch more with our emotions. Another takeaway is when you notice an emotion, you can just say it belongs. This belongs.
Yes.
And this belongs.
Yes.
And a big one is that I have got from this is what we resist will persist. So it will, whatever we're stuffing away and not noticing, it will manifest and build up.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you again for Rozanne for being here with me today. Always fun conversation.
Yes, this was wonderful. I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yes, me too. Thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, you can find us anywhere you listen. You can leave us a review. We really appreciate that. Helps other listeners figure out where we are and maybe enjoy our content and benefit from it. And leave us a comment. We want to hear what you guys are thinking. Tell us what resonates with you. And thanks again for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.